The Sabres' place in the city of Buffalo right now is definitely not near what the Buffalo Bills are, but is it even kind of below where the Buffalo Bandits are? I want to kind of discuss the Sabres' place as a sports entity in our city right now. And then we'll get to Devon Levi being up and what's ahead this week for the Buffalo Sabres. All ahead here in the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, and thanks for making this Monday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast your first listen every day. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel is making the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Sneaky Joe DiBiase coming to you on a Monday after the Sabres fell to the Pittsburgh Penguins on Friday night. And, you know, if you had made Locked On Bills your first listen, that's okay too, because of course the Bills are in the AFC Championship and they own the town right now. It is Bills fever in the city of Buffalo and all the resounding or surrounding suburbs. So I got a thought today on the Sabres and where their place is currently in this city, kind of more of a big picture look at what's going on with this team and just how dead the fan base feels at this moment in time. I also want to get to Devon Levi today. Devon Levi is up with the Sabres. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is dealing with a nagging injury. It's going to hold him out on Monday against the Seattle Kraken. And then we'll see how much further after that, if he's even out into tomorrow, Tuesday, when the Sabres will play the Vancouver Canucks, some Sabres after dark. But we'll get to all that a little bit later on in today's show. If you would like to check us out on our Locked On Sabres text club, get some updates with some on injuries or trade conversation, or if you just want to rant or rave, you can hit us up, joinsubtext.com/Locked On Sabres. On social media, I'm at Sneaky Joe Sports on X or at Sneaky Joe on Blue Sky. So a lot to get to on today's show, but as previously mentioned, like the Bills in the AFC Championship, any Buffalo sports fan, you know, the ones that are fans of both teams, which I would think is about 95% at least of fans, are focused and paying attention right now to every little thing going on with the Bills more than what's going on with the Sabres. I might hazard to guess right now, more Buffalo sports fans know the injury status of Taylor Rapp than know who the Buffalo Sabres play tomorrow. That's kind of where I think the two teams are. And that's not always been the case. I mean, when I was in middle school and in high school and the Sabres were a playoff team, they owned the town. And the Bills were in their drought and they were kind of an afterthought, especially in the spring months. I mean, easily in the spring months. The Bills weren't playing in January. They weren't playing in February. It was draft stuff, and that was really it. And that has flipped. And it flipped a long time ago. It's been 5, 6, 7 years, even if you want. Like, it's been a while since the Sabres had any share of the January, February attention of the sports fan. It just doesn't happen. And most times it's because we get to these months and the Bills are in the postseason and the Sabres have already found themselves out of the playoff race. It has happened far too many times in this playoff drought where the Sabres don't even make it interesting. Like, not only don't they make it, but one time really have they reached the end of the Bills season and still been in it. And listen, from my professional seat, I'm really now understanding and appreciating how important it is that the Sabres just be live when the Bill season comes to a close. Like, I am for radio and for the podcast, but more so for radio. I'm like rooting for the Bills, not only because I want to see them succeed and I want the whole city and everybody, you know, to win a championship, but also I'm like thinking, man, if they lose and the season ends, what are we going to do? We're going to do 4 months of draft talk, and like that actually can be exciting. And it has been in past years. But like the Sabres just don't there's no, what are you supposed to do with them? Right? Like, what is there to talk about? We could go round and round on trade ideas, but it's like, I never expect them to make these deals. So there's a little bit of a professional thing there for me of, man, just can you be good in March? Botcherel, right? Meaningful games in March, which he once coined. Like, give me that. I'm honestly, give me that. Give me something to feel that it's worth caring about. And I think that's the spot Sabre fans have put their fan base in, is not only are they not good, but they're not even giving fans a reason to care. You got to work to care. You either got to be the best fan there is, and there are a lot of those. There are a lot of Sabre fans that love the team that much. They love hockey that much that no matter what, they are going to be invested and they're going to be interested. But that's not everybody. And more you lose folks. And I think this is another year where they might lose a lot because it's no man's land right now. It is, the Sabres are no man's land. And kind of the question I wanted to pose to the listeners, and you can reach out and let me know what you think on this, is the Sabres are clearly behind by leaps and bounds the Bills when it comes to fan attention span bandwidth in this city. Are they dropping to third? Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I'm exaggerating the point a little bit here, but is it worth asking? Are they third now? Are they the third franchise in Buffalo? I'm seriously asking, because the team I'm about to mention is the Buffalo Bandits. NLL lacrosse, I know, but the Buffalo Bandits. And here's where I'm coming from on this. I was a Bandit season ticket holder 2 years ago. I was not last year. 2 years ago when they won the championship, I was. The Bandits are selling out the arena. Right now, it's only 3 Bandits games, so it's kind of tough to tell. And the other context that is needed here on the forefront is the Bandits have the benefit of playing on weekends every week. They don't have Tuesday night games like the Sabres do, which can really kind of drop down their average attendance because they don't fill up the building nearly the same on a Tuesday that they would on a Friday or a Saturday. But either way, the Bandits' average attendance through 3 games is more than 2,000 fans more than the average Sabre game. That's a stark number. And that's happened a couple years ago, I think, right away post-COVID. There were numbers like that, but I don't think it ever got to plus 2,000. 2,000 more people per night to go watch the lacrosse team than to go watch the hockey team. That should never happen. That should never happen. But it does speak to the Bandits and their draw and how much Buffalo supports them, because you look at any NLL attendance figures and they're double anybody else in the league, sometimes triple. So credit to the Bandits. But why is that the case? I mean, it's a couple things. One, the Bandits are 5-0 and they've won championships. And in recent time, they're good. And it's fun, right? It's fun. There's energy. You go to a Bandits game on a Friday or a Saturday night, more often a Saturday night, and you know you're going to have a great time. You know it. Even if they don't win the game, but often they do because they're good, you know you're going to have a great time. You're going to have music playing, and there's a lot of energy, and there's fighting, and there's a lot of physicality, and there's a ton of scoring. I mean, some of that is the product that you're being presented with, the sport itself, but it's more, I think, fans just want something fun and good. And the Bandits are fun and they're good. And the drawback, of course, is they play a sport that nobody else in the country cares about. And that will always put a cap on it. But they maximize fan interest, the Bandits do. And the Sabres do the bare minimum, right? They just exist. And that's kind of it. So are they third? It maybe is debatable. The one area that the Sabres would have in their corner, and I don't have numbers on this, I looked and I don't think they exist on the Bandits, or at least they're not available publicly that I've seen. TV ratings, the Sabres on MSG versus the Bandits on the CW. I have to imagine the Sabres obliterate the Bandits when it comes to TV ratings. Crush them, right? The Bandits, when they're on the road in Albany, you know, how many people are watching that? Not maybe even a 15th or a 10th of what the Sabres would draw on MSG. And that's knowing that ratings for the Sabres have dropped a little bit. So how you put that all into in an equation. What do you care about more? Do you care more about attendance? Do you care about TV ratings? Do you care about what the way the team makes you feel, right? Because who are you walking around thinking about? I mean, I'm often never thinking about the Bandits because they're not a transactional team for me. I'm not thinking about their roster moves and what trades they could make. Like, it's a fun show up to the game. Oh, who's playing? Like, oh, I know this guy. I know 6 guys on the team, but I might not know the whole thing. Or, I might not know their story, their backstory, where they came from. Like Sabre players, I would, and a lot of hardcore fans would. So I just think there's more of those hardcore fans for the Sabres than there are for the Bandits, but maybe the casual fan right now is more invested in the Bandits than the Sabres. And that's where it maybe is close right now. Who's the second franchise? The Bandits deserve that conversation, and the Sabres deserve that conversation for this season going as poorly as it has and just having nothing to sink your teeth into. Nothing. This week, we're going to talk about JT Miller. We talked about Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks. We're going to talk about JT Miller because I think that's the right thing to do. That is a good player that is available. He is a veteran. He is somebody that in Vancouver, the reports are he's kind of called out other important players in the locker room. Some Sabre fans might think that's exactly what the Sabres need. We're going to talk about JT Miller as an idea for this hockey team. And I have no belief that the Sabres are going to trade for him. None. That's what I mean when I say they're in no man's land. The thing to care about with them right now is how do they turn this around? And any path forward, it feels like there's 10 roadblocks on the way. You got a fork in the road. You want to fire the GM. You want to make a trade for this guy. You want to trade away this guy. You want to blow it up. There's 5 forks in the road. Pick any one of them, and you got to jump over 10 roadblocks to get to the end point of the team getting turned around. So that's what I mean on the Sabres and all of the just the terrible, terrible vibes or just not caring that exists with them right now. Let's get into the team itself, though. When we come back, you can let me know what you think about that. If you want to hit us up on our text club, join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres, where you sign up, or you get us up on Twitter. When we come back, Devon Levi. This is the one thing with the team right now I'm actually most excited about. This week, the number one thing I'm excited about is Devon Levi. We'll go over that when we come back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. It's not just NFL playoffs. I mean, although Bills opened up as a small favorite against Kansas City. We'll see. I wonder if that line gets bet towards the Bills being a favorite by the end of the week. So if you want to get in on your hometown team, now might be the time to do it, because I wonder if that line is going to move in the Bills' favor between now and Sunday. We will see. And of course, you have the national championship tonight. The FanDuel app, easy to navigate, variety of bets, keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add something extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, the Sabres are in Seattle here on Monday. It's a 4:00 game. So given that the recording here is a little up against the game itself, we won't do a full breakdown, knowing that a lot of you maybe have already seen the game. But what I do want to get to for this week as a whole is what we're going to see in net, what the Sabres are going to do, and why I'm really excited about the potential to see a lot of Devon Levi this week. And that's what I've got my fingers crossed for. I'm looking for things to watch for on this team right now. What are the most interesting things about them? And I think Levi could be that. The team success isn't going to be it. The standings aren't interesting. Individual players, not a lot of good feel-good stories right now, other than like Jason Zucker. Levi, though, could be something. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, dealing with a nagging injury. He's unavailable on Monday. Kind of maybe seems like maybe that would be the same for Tuesday. And then you're playing if he missed those 2 games, Thursday against Calgary, Saturday against Edmonton, maybe Luukkonen gets into one of those. And then there's Reimer. But Levi's up with the team. And I would want to believe that they're going to get him a game. They're not going to take him out west to not play him. They know that it's about getting reps for him right now. And now the Sabres are kind of in, not really in playoff contention. Maybe a Levi development couple of starts might actually be the smart decision, given that the results don't matter as much. And who's to say Levi's not going to give you better results? Now, he struggled a lot early in the season for this team and definitely fell well short of my expectations. I came into this year really hoping that Devon Levi, this was going to be the year that he took the big step forward and he was going to start challenging Luukkonen for the number one job, or at least for a close to even split. That has not happened. Now, Luukkonen hasn't been great either. He's been up and down, but Levi didn't have a lot of ups when he was up here. So not like last year. Last year, it didn't seem like it went well for Levi, but his advanced numbers, goals saved over expected, were tremendous. This year, that's not the case. But since he got sent down, he's been great. He's been great in Rochester. Levi's numbers for the Amerks, he has played in 17 games. He has a .913 save percentage, a 12-3-2 record for the Rochester Americans. Now, in his last 3 starts in the last 10 days, he had an incredible game against Utica, where he turned away 29-30 shots, and they won that game. He had his most recent game on Friday. He turned away 30 of 32 shots, and they lost in overtime. So good game statistically for Levi again. The middle game sandwiched together there, though, was his worst game of the year in Rochester, where he allowed 6 goals on 35 shots. But the overall is still looking really good for Devon Levi. And to me, I've always believed he's got that elite upside as a goalie because of the steps and all the levels that he's dominated: college, the World Juniors, now the AHL this year and last year. It's just got to translate to the NHL level. And I'd like to see him get a couple of starts under his belt. 4 games this week, I'd like to see him get 2 of them. I would go 1 Reimer game, maybe tomorrow night. We'll see who plays today. 1 Luukkonen game if he's ready by the weekend, and then you get 2 Levi games since he's on the trip anyway. And if it goes well, I think you keep him here, right? Like, that might be a tough balance. What do you do with Devon Levi if he shows some signs of growth with the Sabres? Because 1, if you don't keep him up and he's playing well, might feel like you're giving up on the season. And who's the snicker at that? The season seems like it's completely over, but waving the white flag in January will be another embarrassing mark for the Sabres, and I'm not sure they'd want to do that. But the other attack angle here is Rochester is good. They're even great. And Levi is a key part of that. And he gets starts down there. He gets a lot of games down there. He's getting reps. He's finding success. What do you do if he starts playing well at the NHL level? It's a tough question. Now, maybe we'll cross that bridge if he starts actually playing well. He hasn't yet. He hasn't played. But that'll be an interesting conversation if we get those couple results from Levi, because I could see an argument on both sides. You want him to take steps at the NHL level because you'd like to have a partner for Luukkonen for a couple of years here. And listen, the Sabres are going to need to find ways to get good. And I'm not going to lie right now. I got too much faith in Levi. I'll admit it. Part of that is I don't know where else to turn. I don't know where else to look for an individual taking a massive step forward, and then the Sabres get good. If JJ Peterka becomes a 40-goal scorer overnight, that will help a lot. I don't think it'll make the Sabres good. Not a playoff team, right? You agree? If Owen Power might be closer, but if Owen Power goes from what he is right now to a legit number 1 defenseman next to your other number 1 defenseman, that will help a lot. I don't think that on its own makes you a playoff team, though. If Devon Levi reaches the ceiling that I believe he has and some others do of an elite number 1 goalie in the NHL, if he does that, the Sabres are a playoff team. The reason is that's kind of how the league can work. If your team is mid, even below average, but you have a star goalie, there will be years you make the playoffs with that formula. right? Like, you don't even need the other stuff to come through. Just if your goalie's amazing, that can sometimes be enough. And I still think, even though Luukkonen's made his strides, Levi's ceiling is higher. And at some point, I'm going to have to come off that, right? Like, I can't forever believe that Devon Levi's got a top 5 goalie ceiling, but I am not giving up on that dream right now when he is still only 23 years old and playing really good in the minors. Like, I'm not giving up on it yet. You know, that's what happens with goalies. Sometimes it takes a few years. Ryan Miller, 26 years old, before he finally hit his stride. So I'm not saying that'll take me that long on Levi, but I'm still excited. I'm still excited about this kid. And again, I'm running out of places to find hope for the Buffalo Sabres. And with him, I don't think it's not extinguished yet. When we come back, the rest of the week, what injuries we're looking at, and what kind of competition the Sabres have over the next couple of games. Coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres presented by SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. We just talked about it with the team here. It's this how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Olympics, Stanley Cup. Same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. It's one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience. They've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million, no medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today. Get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon NHL. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. Back on the Locked On Sabres podcast, the Sabres and the Kraken on Monday afternoon. Many of you that are listening now may have already seen the game, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. The Sabres also have a game tomorrow. They are at Vancouver, 10 o'clock puck drop, and this will be the day we talk about JT Miller. And I will want to get a look at what's going on there. What are any little thing I could pick up on, or that we could pick up on? Are they talking to each other, Pettersson and Miller? Are we seeing bad blood? Is there an argument on the bench? I mean, we'll see if that ends up happening against the Sabres. Pettersson did return to the lineup about a week ago, so we'll see. Pettersson, by the way, not putting up points. Only 1 point in his last 5 games. 1 assist, no goals. So that hasn't turned around yet. But that might be because vibes are bad and because there's a beef in the locker room. So Miller will be someone we talk about tomorrow as the Sabres will play the Canucks at 10 o'clock. And then it's Calgary, and then it's Edmonton. So you got your West Coast trip here. You got a few really good teams in the way, mostly Edmonton for that. If you look at the standings right now, Vancouver's not in a playoff spot. Calgary is in a playoff spot barely right now, 1 point ahead of Vancouver. So they're wrestling for that second wildcard position. And then Seattle's the bad team, but Seattle is 6-1 against the Sabres. So, they've dominated this matchup since they came into existence. So that's what you're looking at. We talked about the goaltenders. I think you might get one Luukkonen game if he's ready. Reimer once, and then Levi twice would be what I would do. Ryan McLeod on injured reserve. So we'll see. I might want to bet. I don't even think he made the trip. So I'm guessing you're not going to see him over the next 4 games. He's been placed on injured reserve. So that's what you're looking at for injuries right now. The Sabres' depth at center, which already was being tested because Tage has been dealing with something, had to move to the wing. Tage is going to have to move back to center now. And looks like he'll go back between Alex Tuch and Jason Zucker. Cousins will go back with Quinn and Peterka to see if that line can find any of the magic they had a couple of years ago. And then you're looking at Krebs and Kozak down the middle for your 4-line roster. So that's it. Vibes are not good. Vibes are not good with the Sabres, but vibes are good with the Bills. So hopefully that's keeping you in a good mental space as a sports fan, if you are indeed a fan of both teams, which again, most are. All right, that'll do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Sabres and Canucks tomorrow. Should the Sabres be looking at JT Miller not Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks. We'll go through him as a trade target and what the roadblocks are for him and how he would fit. I've talked about wanting a Chris Drury type of addition to the Buffalo Sabres, and that's like the number one thing they need. Maybe JT Miller is there's an argument maybe he's not far off that, but there's a lot of more context that's needed there. Get to that tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. You want to check out a recap of Bills and Ravens. Joe Marino's got you covered on Locked On Bills, and if you're a big fantasy hockey player like I am and you need some tips and tricks for the week, check out Steal and Flip on Locked On Fantasy Hockey. We will speak to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.